Hey everybody, it's Christina Ziedman, and today I want to walk you through a sample import working with Alumni Updates. So I am working for Redmond College in this scenario, and we created an online forum where we asked our alumni to update their information and share some of their favorite memories from their time on campus, as well as their favorite professor, and maybe just to tell us if they've changed their name, anything like that. So we really just want to get our alumni information up to date in Razor's Edge. Now, a couple pieces to point out with this kind of an update. If you're working in a Razor's Edge import, in order to change existing constituents, you have to have the constituent ID, the constituent import ID, or the social security number. Now, those are very likely not going to be available to you with the data that has come out of your online form. So you either have to use VLOOKUP or you can use Importacular. Our criteria sets will help you match those constituents to constituents who are already in the Razor's Edge. Another piece, though, is we're asking these alumni to tell us who their spouse is. Well, again, if we're adding those spouses from the form and the name is in the spreadsheet, we have no way to match whether or not that spouse is already in Razor's Edge. So again, we have to find ID numbers and use that information to update existing information. Again, criteria sets in Importacular will help you match those spouses to spouses who already exist in Razor's Edge, or even not spouses, just even relationships that already exist in Razor's Edge. And then the other thing that we're working with are the education relationships. So again, to update that in Razor's Edge, you would have to have that education import ID. But with Importacular, we have some match settings where we can actually determine if this relationship is already in Razor's Edge. And then we can update the education relationship that already exists rather than importing a second one. So I want to start from the standpoint of we already have our template built. We've already added a lot of different mappings to our template. And I want to take you to the review screen. And right before we do that, though, I do want to show you my sample data file. So you can see here, we have some people who are using titles, some people who aren't. We've got current surname or last name, and we've also got maiden name. So a couple of our alumni here have changed their names since they graduated. And we've also got address and mailing address, email address. We've got some spouse information. Not all of them do, but some of them do. And then we've got some favorite memories, class year, favorite professor, professional accomplishments, and current career. So now if we want to add this information all into Razor's Edge, we can do that with the template that we've already built. Now, I point this out because sometimes people think that you have to build a new template every time, and no, you don't. You can actually reuse the same template as long as you're working with the same type of file or the same data source. So if I am running this alumni update form over and over, and the column headers that I spit out when I create my file are always the same, I can always use that same template. So let's go ahead and click continue, and let's map the data that we have into Razor's Edge and also see what it looks like with the settings that we have in our template. So before we take a look at all the updates here, I want to show you my file so you can see what we've mapped. So you can see we've added those titles. We can see that we have the last name. We have the maiden name. We've got some marital status updates here. We've got addresses and salutations. You can see that I've added that occupation to a constituent attribute. We've also added those favorite memories as a constituent note, and we have made sure that they all have that constituent code of alumni. I've added an address so you can see the ones that have come through the mapping. We've also added the spouse's address, so if we're adding that spouse relationship, we've got that information there. And then we have added those email addresses as well. Now for the constituents that have spouses, you can see that we have their spouses listed here. And one thing I do want you to notice is that the first row actually has an update on that relationship. So what that's telling us is that this relationship isn't going to be new. It's going to change a relationship that already exists on Anne's record. So if there's already a relationship and it matches, instead of creating a duplicate, we do have an update. The other thing I want to show you is the education. So you can see here that we have our class years populated. We have their date graduated. We have their BA. which is their degree. We've marked these as their primary alumni. We've filled in their school type, status, and we've even added that favorite professor information. So we have a lot of information there. Now, when we come back to our main tab for data source, you can see that we have some combinations of update and create. Now, one of the reasons I want to point that out to you is that Anne is a perfect example. The data source says that her name is Anne Blythe. Now, that record for Anne Blythe has been matched to a record for Anne Shirley. The first name and the last name don't match, and the address doesn't match. But if we scroll all the way to the right, we can see that this is listed as a good match. Now, good matches and exact matches are based on how you set up your criteria set. So there is a bit of you knowing what your criteria sets are. But the thing I want to show you is if we click on Anne Shirley here, we can actually take a look and see what information we have here. We can come back, we can look at our constituent, and we can see what caused that match. Now, we do have some settings in our criteria sets, in our sample, that would work with maiden name and class year. So we do have Anne's class year, we have her maiden name. So I'm assuming that my good match is because I already had an Anne Shirley for this class year. I do have an exact match on Gilbert, so I'm not surprised to see that we have the same email address. So we've got Dr. Gilbert, Dr. Gilbert. So a lot of that is based off of what is in Razor's Edge. What are your criteria sets? It can be based off of name, class year, address, email address, phone number. There's a lot of different criteria there that you can use to help you match your alumni, which is so important when you have alumni like Anne who change their name over time. The other thing I do want to show you with Anne, we saw this on the relationship tab, was that Anne does already have a relationship with Gilbert. Now, he is listed here as her friend. So we want to make sure that that gets updated and that we see Gilbert as her spouse and not her friend. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. We're going to uncheck that validate, and we're going to import this data so you can see what happens to update these relationships, as well as to create a new one for Priscilla. Go ahead and click yes here. And we've done our import. Everything has processed exactly as we would hope. And just a second, our control report will be there. So there it is. We can see we've created one new record. We've updated 3. If we click here, we can open that Excel file and we can see all of our data. I'm going to close that though. And I'd like to open Anne's record. So we can see if we open it that we've got a lot of differences from the last time we looked at this record. For example, Anne's last name has now changed to Blythe. Her title has changed to Mrs. And she now has a spouse of Gilbert Blythe. We also can see her address has changed. So if we come to her address tab, you can see the Cavendish address is now her former address. The House of Dreams is now her current address. Her attribute tab does have her occupation. And if we come to her notepad, we can see her favorite memory from her time at Redmond College. And last but not least, if we come to our relationships tab, we can see there is only one relationship with Gilbert Blythe. It is listed as her spouse. And if we open her Redmond College, we can see that we've got all of her information populated. We've got a graduation date, and we also have her favorite professor. Now that dorms and housing attribute was not in our import, so that's here from a previous data entry. So this just shows how we can add this information to what's already there because we've matched to that relationship rather than adding a new relationship. I hope that this is helpful in giving you a chance to think about how you can work with Importacular in order to update existing alumni records, whether you're working with just the alumni's data, whether you're working with their relationships to their spouses, or even their relationship to a school. There's a lot you can do with this tool, and I hope that this has helped you see that. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day.